he'd always come up to you and he'd say something, oh, this. And he was always managing then. But as it turned out, he was the right guy for the 67 team. You know, I get asked that question every once in a while. Who was the best you ever saw? And I usually laugh a little because how much time do you have? I was around a long time. 23 years is a lot of baseball. After that many years, you stop remembering every game. You stop remembering every at-bat. Somebody will come up to me and say, Yaz, remember that game in Cleveland when you did this? Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't have the slightest idea what they're talking about. That's just the truth. But players, certain players I remember, oh, I remember them. There were guys where you'd be standing out in left field, maybe moving a couple steps one way or the other, and you already knew something could happen. You could just feel it. And there were pitchers where I'd be sitting in the dugout watching them warm up, and I'd think, boy, this is going to be a long afternoon. We didn't talk about greatness the way people do now. Nobody was walking around the clubhouse making lists. You were trying to win a ball game. That was it. But you knew who the great ones were. Believe me, you knew. The funny thing is, when I think back now, I don't always remember the home runs or the numbers. I remember little things. The way a guy walked toward the plate. The way he looked back at a pitcher. The way everybody in our dugout suddenly got a little quieter when he came up. And sometimes I remember a man who never even stepped into the batter's box. That's baseball. The older I get, the more I realize the people stay with you longer than the numbers do. So if you're asking me for five men I saw in this game who made me think, yeah, that guy was different, I can give you 5. And number 5 was one tough son of a gun, Palmer. Oh boy. I saw enough of Jim Palmer to last me a lifetime. People ask me what it was like facing him, and I always tell them the same thing. He never made you comfortable. That was the thing about Jim. You'd walk up there thinking you had an idea of what he wanted to do, and then he'd show you something just different enough to make you start guessing again. And once a hitter starts guessing, the pitcher's already got him halfway beat. Jim had that high fastball. Everybody knew about it. You knew it was coming. The whole ballpark knew it was coming. Didn't make it any easier to hit. I can remember standing in there against him and thinking, all right, Yaz, don't chase it. Then there it goes, right up there. And your bat follows it anyway. That could drive you crazy. But what I respected about Palmer wasn't just his arm. It was the way he competed. Baltimore had some terrific clubs in those days, and when Palmer was pitching, you knew you weren't going to get much for free. If you had a chance to score a run, you'd better take it. You might not get another one, and Jim knew that. He pitched like a man who expected to be out there all afternoon. There wasn't any panic in him. That bothered hitters more than people realize. You'd get somebody on base, maybe work a good at-bat, and you'd start thinking, okay, maybe we've got him. Then he'd make the pitch. That was Palmer. He could bend without giving you what you really wanted. Now, did I get my hits off him? Sure. If you play against somebody enough times, you're going to have your days. And he had plenty of days against me, too. That's what made those battles fun. We saw each other so many times that eventually there weren't many secrets left. He knew what I wanted. I knew what he wanted. Then somebody still had to win. I've faced a lot of good pitchers, a lot of them. But when I think about the guys who made me earn every single thing I got at that plate, Jim Palmer's right there. I respected the hell out of him. I just didn't enjoy seeing him on the mound. Harmon Killebrew. Now, there was a man you didn't want to make a mistake to. And the funny thing about Harmon was, if you met him away from the field, you'd never think this was the same guy. Quiet guy, nice guy, easy to talk to. Then the game started, and he could hit a baseball about as hard as anybody I ever saw. I remember watching him come to the plate and thinking, don't give this guy anything. Of course, I was standing in left field, so I didn't have much say in the matter. That was the pitcher's problem. But Harmon made it everybody's problem pretty quickly. He had that power where the ball just sounded different. You know what I mean? If you've been around baseball long enough, you know the sound. There's a normal base hit. There's a good line drive. And then there's that sound where every player on the field turns his head at the same time. Harmon could make that sound. I'd watch him take a swing and think the pitcher had gotten the ball in a decent spot. Then I'd turn around, and the damn thing was gone. That's when you knew you were dealing with somebody different. What I liked about Harmon, though, was that there wasn't much show to him. He didn't need any. He hit the ball. He ran the bases. He went back to the dugout. Simple. I always appreciated guys like that. We came from an era where you didn't have to tell everybody how good you were. If you were good enough, the other team already knew. And everybody knew about Killebrew. Believe me, you saw that name in the Minnesota lineup and you paid attention. I also think people sometimes forget how difficult it is to be known as a power hitter and still go out there every day with everybody waiting for you to do one thing. Hit the ball out. Harmon lived with that. Pitchers worked around him. They tried to make him impatient. They tried to get him chasing. He still got him. That's what I remember. Not one particular home run. Not one particular afternoon. Just years of looking across the field and seeing that big number 3 come toward the plate and thinking, here we go. Harmon was a gentleman, one of the nicest men you could meet, but with a bat in his hands, I wanted him back in that dugout as quickly as possible. Dick Williams. Now, Dick was different. He never hit a home run for us. Never threw a pitch for us. But if you're asking me about the people who made me understand baseball a little differently, I can't leave Dick out. Was he easy to play for? No, absolutely not. And I think Dick would have laughed if you asked him whether he was trying to be. He wasn't there to make everybody comfortable. When he came to Boston, we needed that. I probably wouldn't have admitted it at the time. Players don't like admitting the manager is right, especially when he's getting on you about something. You'd walk back into the dugout after an at-bat, maybe already mad at yourself, and Dick could give you that look. Sometimes the look was enough. You knew. Yeah, Dick, I know. That was our relationship sometimes. But he expected you to play the game right. Every day. Didn't matter what you did yesterday. Didn't matter if you were tired. Didn't matter if your name was Yastrzemski or you were the last guy on the bench. You had a job. Do it. I respected that. Maybe more now than I did then. 1967 was a funny year. Nobody really knew what we had when it started. Then we kept hanging around. We kept winning games. People didn't expect us to win. And Dick never let us act surprised about it. That was important. He made us believe we belonged there. There were moments when I wanted to be left alone, and Dick wasn't much interested in leaving anybody alone. If he thought something needed saying, he said it. That could make you mad. Hell, it made me mad plenty of times. But years later, you don't remember being mad. You remember why the man was doing it. He wanted something out of us. More than we sometimes thought we had. And he got it. That's why Dick belongs here for me. There were managers who were easier to talk to. There were probably managers who understood players differently. But Dick Williams came into Boston at exactly the right time. He pushed that club. He pushed me. And sometimes the person who helps you the most isn't the guy putting his arm around you. Sometimes he's the guy looking you right in the eye and saying, you can do better. Dick did that. And whether I liked hearing it or not most of the time, he was right. Frank was mean. I don't mean mean in a bad way. I mean, when that game started, Frank Robinson wasn't out there to make friends with anybody. He wanted to beat you. And you knew it. I always liked that about him. You'd see Frank walking toward the plate, and there was something about the way he carried himself. He looked like he already knew how the at-bat was going to end. Maybe the pitcher had the advantage Maybe Baltimore was behind. Didn't matter. Frank walked up there like the game belonged to him. That kind of confidence is hard to explain unless you've stood on the same field with somebody who has it. And Frank had plenty of it. I remember watching him hit and thinking there wasn't much you could do to scare him. Pitch inside. Fine. He'd stand there, knock him down. He'd get right back up, come after him again. Go ahead. Frank wasn't going anywhere. That's what separated him from me. Sure, he could hit. Everybody knows that. But plenty of guys could hit. Frank competed on every damn pitch. There was no relaxing when he was around. And Baltimore had some great clubs in those years, so we saw enough of him. Too much if you ask me. You'd look at that lineup and start figuring out where you might get an easy inning. Then you got to Frank's name. Forget about it. There was nothing easy there. The other thing I respected was that he played with pride. Real pride. Not the kind where you talk about yourself. Frank didn't need to tell you who Frank Robinson was. He showed you. I understood that. We were different people, but I think we looked at the game in a similar way. You showed up, you played hard, and if somebody wanted to beat you, they'd better earn it. That was Frank. I remember there were times when he'd do something against us and I'd be standing out there thinking, damn it, Robinson. Then maybe later you'd see him somewhere away from the field and everything was fine. That's baseball. You can respect a man and still spend half your career wishing he'd go 0 for 4. And I respected Frank as much as anybody because whenever he stepped onto that field, you knew exactly what you were getting. Everything he had, every time. Guys like that stay in your memory. Frank certainly stayed in mine. Mickey Mantle. Yeah. If you're asking me for number one, I'm going with Mickey. I know people can argue about these things forever. That's part of baseball. Put 3 old ball players in a room and ask them who the greatest was, and pretty soon you'll have 4 different answers. But for me, Mickey was something else. When I came up, he was already Mickey Mantle. That matters. I was a young kid trying to replace Ted Williams in Boston, which was about the easiest job in the world, right? And then you'd go into Yankee Stadium, and there was Mantle. I'd seen him before, of course. Everybody had, but seeing somebody from the stands and sharing a field with him are 2 different things. The first thing I noticed was the speed. People remember the home runs. I understand that. Hell, some of those balls looked like they were never coming down. But Mickey could run. You'd watch that big, strong guy move and think, how does a man built like that run like that? And he could hit from both sides. That wasn't normal. Nothing about Mickey seemed normal when he was right. I also knew he was hurting. Everybody around the league knew. Maybe we didn't know every detail back then, but you could see it. The knees, the way he moved some days. You'd watch him between plays and think he could barely get through the afternoon. Then the pitcher would throw one in the wrong place. Bung. Gone. That impressed me as much as anything. It's easy to admire somebody when everything looks easy. Mickey made things look easy when I knew damn well they weren't. And playing in Boston, naturally, you weren't supposed to love anything about the Yankees. That rivalry was real. You wanted to beat them. You wanted Yankee Stadium quiet. You certainly didn't want Mantle coming up with men on base. But respect is different. You couldn't watch Mickey Mantle play baseball and not respect him. At least I couldn't. There were bigger hitters. There were guys with better arms. There were players who stayed healthier. You can make an argument for plenty of them, but if you asked me to go back and pick one man I'd want to watch again just one afternoon when he was healthy and everything was working, give me Mickey. I'd stand out there in left field one more time, and I'd probably think exactly what I thought all those years ago. Don't hit it over here, Mick. You know, the funny thing about making a list like this is the minute you finish it, you start thinking about somebody you left out. That's baseball. I saw too many great ones. You could give me another 5 tomorrow and I'd probably have 5 more stories. But these men, they stayed with me. Palmer made every trip to the plate feel like work. Killebrew could make you turn around in left field before the ball even reached the fence. Dick Williams could make you angry at 10 in the morning and somehow have you playing better baseball by 2 in the afternoon. Frank Robinson played like somebody had personally insulted him before every game. And Mickey was Mickey. There really isn't much more you have to say. When you're young, you don't think about remembering any of this. That's the strange part. You think it's going to last forever. There'll always be another series. Another trip to Baltimore. Another afternoon at Yankee Stadium. Another time you'll see one of those guys standing 60 feet away from you and think, not him again. Then one day there isn't. The years go by. The uniforms change. The ballparks change. Some of the guys aren't here anymore. And suddenly those ordinary afternoons don't feel so ordinary. That's probably what I understand better now. I was lucky. I got to spend my life playing the game I loved in one city in front of people who cared about baseball about as much as I did. And along the way, I got the best seat in the house to watch some pretty remarkable men. We competed. We got angry. We beat each other. We probably drove each other crazy sometimes. But that was the fun of it. Because when you played against somebody truly great, he made you find out something about yourself too. You either got better or he beat you. Simple as that. And after all these years, I don't remember every score. I don't remember every hit. I don't even remember every game. But I remember the men. Yeah, I remember them pretty damn well.